Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Wednesday, July 20th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, a developing story as members of Congress were arrested while protesting for abortion rights. Mimi's going to have more on that story. Meanwhile, House Republicans want to repeal the Defense of Marriage Act as a new bill makes its way to Senate. But will it pass? We're going to break it down. Then, Sesame Place employees will have some new training strategies implemented as more videos of amusement park characters land on the internet disrespecting Black children.
Plus, a seasoned podcast duo is saying goodbye to their show, and we'll tell you what actor is the topic of criticism after posting their wedding photos. We have all of that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
U.S. Capitol Police arrested more than a dozen members of Congress yesterday for blocking a street in front of the Supreme Court. The House members were protesting for abortion rights. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was among the members Capitol Police arrested for blocking the street in front of the court. She was seen being led away with her hands behind her back, although she was not in handcuffs. 16 other Democratic lawmakers were also arrested with her, including Rep. Cori Bush and Ayanna Pressley. The protesters wore green bandanas with the message "Won't Back Down" as they marched from the U.S. Capitol to the Supreme Court. A total of 35 people were arrested during the demonstration. This is absolutely the best. I love this. I love that they're using their bodies, their positions to bring awareness to this issue. I think this is what we're going to need. They were arrested for a good cause. When they were asked if this is going to be the last time, they said stay tuned. So it sounds like we could be in store for more of these sort of protests and things that we saw yesterday. And then there was a representative, Jackie Spear from California, and she said in a statement that she had never been arrested before. But she can hear the late, great Congressman John Lewis imploring her to make good trouble. So I really love that she put that out there and that she used her body and her voice for good.
Yes, as we've seen protests like this similar before in recent months, definitely everyone has gone back to, go back to the good trouble as the reason for their protest. You know, these are some of the most prominent female names in Congress, and so this is really great. Ilhan Omar, she actually posted as well. She was there and she said, hey, you know what, I was arrested participating in a civil disobedience action with my fellow members of Congress. Some of them are seen smiling, even like, hey, we are okay, we're totally fine, we're just literally putting our bodies out there, like Mimi said, and trying to make a statement. And so I'm a little nervous about getting arrested, but I think also, too, like if we were to say, hey, we're going to come together and fight for something that we believe in, I'm sure the adrenaline will be moving and I'll be like, hey, I'm down for it. Let's do it.
You know, it's important for women to know that there's women out there fighting for them. I want to see more men out there as well, too. So I'm calling out our men that represent both sides. But Cori Bush said something pretty powerful. Even though they arrested us, we won't stop organizing, agitating, and legislating for justice. We got us. I mean, that says it all right there. And the picture we've been showing here for our soulmates pretty much explains the fight will continue.
Mm-hmm. You know, and just, yeah, Romy, that's a good point. That's a really good point about men. We definitely should see that. That's a great point. I love that. Democrats are using this year's NAACP convention to tell African American leaders why getting a big turnout this fall of Black voters is important to the party keeping control of Congress. The 113th annual convention ends today in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Over the weekend, Vice President Kamala Harris told convention goers they have a job to do in November to fight back conservative Republicans.
So we know what we need to do, and in particular, to protect the freedom to vote and a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, we need people who will defend our rights up and down the ballot, from district attorneys to state attorneys general, from local sheriffs to governors. And we need 2 more votes in the United States Senate.
That is right, VP. Now, during her speech, the vice president condemned the Supreme Court's controversial decision on abortion. Hazel Dukes, the longtime president of the NAACP's New York chapel, says that Black voters must get to the polls this fall like our lives depend on it.
The white man charged in the murder of 10 black people in a Buffalo mass shooting in May pled not guilty Monday to federal hate crimes. The charges against Peyton Gendron could result on the death penalty for him. Now, Gendron's lawyer says she hopes to resolve the case before it goes to trial. Attorney General Merrick Garland, who halted federal execution, has not ruled out seeking the death penalty in the shooter's case.
And President Biden is issuing an executive order aimed at getting American hostages and other citizens detained in foreign countries back into the United States. The actions come as the WNBA star Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan, a former U.S. Marine arrested on espionage charges, remain in a Russian jail. The action allows federal agencies to impose financial consequences on countries involved in hostage-taking or wrongful detentions. The administration will also warn American travelers of the risk of being jailed by foreign governments.
Almost 50 House Republicans joined Democrats yesterday to pass a bill that will repeal the Defense of Marriage Act. The Defense of Marriage Act defined marriage as a union between one man and one woman. The House's repeal will enshrine marriage equality into law. The bill, which passed 267 to 157, is a response to Justice Clarence Thomas's comment that rulings on equality like LGBTQ+ rights and contraception should be reconsidered, much like Roe versus Wade. The bill must now move on to the Senate, where it will be unclear if it will pass an evenly divided Senate where 60 votes are required to pass most legislation. Again, at the end of the day, when we talk about Roe versus Wade should be in the hands of women. That is, it should be a woman's decision. Also, a person deciding who they want to love, who they want to marry, that is also your choice. And I don't believe that the government should ever be in a position where they can tell a person, hey, you can only marry a woman because I'm a woman. I can only marry a man because I'm a woman. If I decide to partake into that, to marry whoever I want to, that should be 100% my choice.
Yeah. No, I'm glad the House passed this bill. They passed it 267 to 157, but it has a very uphill battle now that, as you mentioned, Demi, it heads to the Senate because it needs 10 Republicans to sign on to codify same-sex marriage. And so I don't know if they have the votes needed to make this a law, but we'll see what happens. But this is in direct response to Justice Clarence Thomas, to his opinion, basically saying that same-sex marriage and contraceptives could be next. And so I'm glad to see them taking some sort of action, some action before the Supreme Court does something, and then we're always reacting instead of. So they're getting in front of it, and so that's the good news. And so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
You know, Yahoo News, too, I just want to hop in here, has the list of the 157 House Republicans who voted against protections for same-sex marriages. So someone on Twitter said, hey, just letting you know, if your representative is on this list, make sure you make your voice known in November when it comes time for election.
And where can they get that list?
This is on Yahoo News.
That's important. You know, with midterms coming up and things like that, you want to know that. And, you know, when I read into this and they talk about, you know, same-sex marriage or even like interracial marriage, I'm like, are we back in the 1940s, 50s, or 60s? Who would ever thought that we'd have to get in front of this situation again and try and stop it? But Thomas, he said it. So we can't say that he didn't warn us, because he put it out there saying this is something that should happen. And I think it's going to be coming down the pipe soon. So they're trying to get in front of it to make sure it does.
Which is a great thing. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, the Department of Justice is investigating whether Maryland state police officials have racially discriminated against African-American troopers. The U.S. Attorney for Maryland says the DOJ will work to protect the civil rights of all people in the state. Eric Maroon says the investigation seeks to restore the trust between law enforcement and the community it serves. The governor and state police chief says they will cooperate with the probe.
The family of a University of Mississippi student that is missing, he is asking for the public's help in finding the young man. Jimmy J. Lee has been missing since July 8th. Police say the 20-year-old public policy major was last seen early that morning, possibly meeting someone at an apartment complex. Lee's car, a 2014 Ford Focus, was discovered at an impound yard. The Oxford police, as well as the university cops, they are looking for him. Now, Crime Stoppers, they are offering a $1,000 reward for any information that leads to Lee's whereabouts.
3 people are being charged with distributing pamphlets with hate symbols at a black church and synagogue in a small rural town in New York State. Aubrey Dragonetti, Dylan Henry, and Ryan Mulholland have been hit with 100 charges of first-degree aggravated harassment. The stickers and pamphlets featured swastikas and racial slurs. The papers were placed at the Both Deliverance Ministries, a black church in a majority white city of 8,000 people. Most of the counts are misdemeanors. Now, if convicted, the suspects could face between 1 and 4 years in prison.
7 years after the massacre by white supremacists at a black church in Charleston, South Carolina, a commission is working on racial equity in the city. Now, the board was created to deal with racism in the form of Slaveport City, where Dylan Roof killed 9 people at Emmanuel AME Church in 2015. Commission members say there could be economic gains for everyone in the city if long-standing racial gaps in wealth, education, and healthcare are closed. But a 545-page report submitted to city leaders has met opposition. Most of the Charleston Council voted against formally accepting the committee's recommendations for more action.
And more videos have emerged of a Sesame Place character ignoring black kids after the Sesame Street theme park in Philadelphia claimed the viral clip was a result of a one-time misunderstanding. The video posted over the weekend showed 2 black girls watching the parade, and the Rosita character seemingly ignores them and gives the high five to the white children. The park apologized, claiming the performers didn't see the girls because of the costume. But in another video, Rosita appears to ignore a black boy during a parade when he steps out to greet her. And now multiple videos from different parents from different characters show them prioritizing white kids over black kids. Now, Sesame Workshop, the nonprofit that runs Sesame Street, says they will be conducting a bias training and a thorough review of the ways they engage with families and guests. So yes, I have seen multiple videos come out of different characters ignoring, or did you see the character where was it Elmo? I can't remember.
The purple one?
The purple one.
Yeah.
Where it pushed the little kid down on the floor.
Yes.
I was trying to figure out what character that was.
What character was it? There it is right there. What
Yes.
character? I don't even know.
I don't know.
But it doesn't matter.
So many new characters.
It's so many new, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the behavior that we've seen, and I don't think, so we can do all the bias training in the world, but I do think they all need to be let go. And they need to hire new people, and we need to find people who understand that these are children.
I mean, honestly, Mimi, at a grown age, if you have to be taught how to be a decent person,
that's why they need to be let go.
It's like, come on, that you have to be, 20 and older, 21 and older, you have to teach to be a decent person is just honestly shameful, to say the least. But also, I just want to applaud the black parents that are like, oh, this is what we're doing? Bet. You know what? Actually, a couple years ago, I have a video as well. Oh, really? This is what we're doing? Remember? And I love how everybody is rallying together to let it be known because, hey, you know, a Sesame Place, we actually talked about a Sesame Place recently here in California, and we were talking about possibly going with nieces and nephews. And so after this, I'm just like, hey, hopefully this will send a message to all Sesame Places across the world that we are not afraid of you and we will take our money elsewhere.
A couple of things. People would say for someone to get that job position, their working skills may not have to be that high, but that's beside the point. Who is behind the costume? I think it's important that we know, because if they get fired from this job and go elsewhere, who knows what could happen in that situation? So that's a concern. And when you see this, I felt like I was watching like a movie, like a skit where they were going to be like, oh, we're just kidding. But to see these videos come over and over again to those black kids who just love these characters and they're so innocent, yet they're being mistreated like this, it's very hard to watch.
Yeah.
But I will say the power of social media, everybody getting on board, collaborating, showing all these videos is very big.
I love that. And then Sesame Place, they put out a statement to the family saying that they spoke to the family and they extended their apologies and they invited them back. Well, the family came out and said that's not true. They have not invited the kids back.
Wow.
And they called the statement, the first and only time that they saw the statement was when we saw the statement on Instagram. So they're saying the statement is a lie. And so that's just very interesting. Why would you say that if you had not spoken to the parents, you had not actually tried to make this better? I don't know how you make this better, but to put that statement out to try and slow down the social media spread of this is just kind of deceptive.
Mimi, Rami, I've worked in hospitality before. I've worked some crazy jobs that I don't even want to talk about before. Nothing too crazy, but at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a fun job. This is literally, you have one job to make kids smile all day, and if you can't do that, this is not your line of work. But I'm nervous that if you can't do something as simple as this, is be nice to all kids, it's kind of like, I don't even know what job you can. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because this doesn't even take, I don't want to shame anyone's job here, but I'm like, at the end of the day, all you have to do is make kids happy.
That is your one job.
That's it. That's the
you have one job.
Yeah.
Literally
That's the one time we can use that phrase.
Right.
You
have one job. Yeah. Literally.
All right, soulmates, switching gears here. We're still learning more details about the shooting of JAYLAND Walker. Although JAYLAND Walker has been laid to rest, the investigation into the Akron officers who shot and killed him, it continues. The medical examiner noted in Walker's autopsy that he had not been tested for gunshot residue, a key element in determining whether he had a firearm. Now, plus an investigation by a local news station in Akron, it revealed that officers suspected Walker was up to something criminal that night. Of course, that's going to come out now. The Fraternal Order of Police president is confirming that officers weren't just chasing Walker because of a traffic stop. They say officers tried to pull him over earlier that night because after running his plates, they saw he had been in a pursuit the day before, but they let him go. Later, officers said that they spotted his car again in a, quote, high crime area, and that raised their suspicion. The officers were also justifying their hail of 90 bullets, claiming Walker tried to shoot at them. However, there is no forensic evidence to prove that. Police called a press conference yesterday, which would have been Walker's 26th birthday. I'm not buying this. At the end of the day, what happened here, 90 shots were hailed at this black man. 60 of them landed inside of his body. At the end of the day, even if he was America's most wanted criminal on the highest top priority list, drug dealer, kingpin, at the very end of the day, there's no justification for the way that this young man was treated. And there was absolutely another way to go about finding him, hunting him down. There are people you see on TV, you set people up, you get them in a place in order. There's just so many other ways. So, shooting 90 shots at a person, I really have no...
I think you just said the key word there, hunting him down, because in this statement, I think the Fraternal Order of Police president, he tried to justify saying, okay, well, we saw him earlier that day. We followed him. He was in a high crime area. And so we decided to stay on him. And then when something happened, then that's when we shot at him. So what you're saying to me is that you followed this young man all day long. And then the moment you thought something happened or he did something, then you fired 90 bullets into him. Yeah. That is not, so as you're trying to justify, but what I'm hearing is you targeted this man. That's what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing the justification of that statement that he tried to give. To me, it comes off the absolute opposite. Yeah. And so the fact that they still haven't tested his hands for gunshot residue, there's still many things that they haven't done, but they're claiming that he had a gun. They can't prove that yet because they didn't test. And so there's just so many things wrong, and I hope that they continue this investigation and they get to the bottom of all of this.
Definitely have to get to the bottom of it. 90 shots. And like you said, Demi, you described, you could be some of the highest killers. I love comparing this situation. I hate the fact I have to. Yeah. Let's talk about the killer in Buffalo, New York, that that went to a grocery store and killed 10 people and still had a gun in his hand facing you, and he still got a chance to go to jail. He still has a chance to have a case and have a trial. This young man did not have that. And if you were suspicious of him, at some point you couldn't pick a better situation to stop him, or, it just doesn't add up, and the truth is going to definitely come out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, a 20-year-old black man is dead after two Minneapolis snipers shot him during a standoff. Police were called to an apartment building last week after they said Andrew Tekle Sundberg fired a gun through an apartment wall. His next-door neighbor called police. Sundberg's family says he was suffering from a mental health breakdown. Officers say they spent hours trying to negotiate with him, but it didn't work. Around 2:30 in the morning, Sundberg's father addressed him over the loudspeaker, begging for him to come down. 2 hours later, he was shot by two snipers. He died at the hospital. It's unclear if the officers have been disciplined for the shooting, but it turns out the same officers who were involved in this shooting were part of a SWAT team that killed Amir Locke last year. Police reform activists took to the streets this week calling for police to handle situations with the mentally ill differently. Civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump has joined the legal team. We talk about police officers who've been in certain situations in the past. They still manage to stay on the force or go elsewhere and still have a job. We talk about how do we deal with mental illness. Demi, you had a story earlier this week about a number they could call, right? 988. You know, we're trying to get in front of this situation, but why? All this time, there was no one else in the apartment with him that I know of. You know, they were speaking of within the story. Why did you have to take him down like that?
You know, this story, okay, so for the other side of it, the father said that, yes, he had a mental illness. And so the woman, though, whose apartment that he shot into, she's coming forward and saying that he almost hit her when he shot into her apartment, and she was in there cooking with her kids. And so she called 911, and she said that she had a carry permit, a license to carry. And so she asked 911 if she could shoot back. 911 was like, I wouldn't recommend that. And so she didn't shoot back, but she's saying that a lot of people now are comparing him to the Breonna Taylors and the Amir Locke's and things like that because of police killing him. But she's saying in her defense is that this man tried to kill her and her family, and so she's understanding that he has mental illness, but from her perspective, she's just saying she was scared, her family was scared, and what does she do in a situation like this where there's a mentally ill person who fires into your apartment? What does she do?
You know, Mimi, I'm so happy that you said that, because at the end of the day, you know, I could sit here and read 988 and give it to our soulmates and say, let's all, you know, when we feel like we're in danger, let's call 988 before we call 911. But at the very end of the day, I've been in some situations before with a person that I believe to have been homeless. You know, and I was terrified. And so honestly, in that situation, when you were thinking about your own life or death, to be honest, we can sit here and say 988 all that we want, but at the very end of the day, when you are in those situations where you are feeling like your life is in danger, 911 is where you're going to call first. Yeah. And so 988 is great when you feel like it's a non-threatening situation. I'm just speaking.
No, you're
right. Being real.
Okay,
right.
Thank you. I'm so happy there's a safe place here, is that when your life is in danger, you're not thinking, let me call 988 and they can take this softly. No, you're like, I'm going to call 911. I need police here because my life is in danger. So on that end of it, I can understand when you just have to make that a life or death situation. Now, 988, you see a police officer who is, you know, arresting someone who you can tell is having a mentally ill breakdown. They're not a threat to society. That's where 988 should be called. Right. But I don't want to make it seem like when you are having a life or death situation, you're going to call, because no one is going to do that. And you shouldn't
in this case, and I'll say this real quick because I know we got to wrap it up. You know, she had every right to call 911. She was in danger. A bullet came through her house. Not saying if he did it intentionally, but at that point, I believe everyone is out of building in that area. So how do you resolve it at that point? We know what initiated the phone call, but how do we take this situation to handle it differently so it doesn't end like this?
Yeah.